Hi, I'm Joy here with Greg from Supergiant Games. Hey. Greg, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Of course, absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about Bastion. What's it about?
Well, it's an original action RPG we're a small team of 6 people, and in this game, basically it's kind of this mysterious setup that people can play right here. You wake up, you're this character who's trying to get to a location called the Bastion, where all your people were supposed to go in case anything went wrong. And it appears like this sort of surreal catastrophe called the Calamity has happened. So you make your way to this place, but there the only person you discover is this old man who believes he has a plan to set everything straight, but he needs your help because he's an old man. He ain't the fighting man he used to be. Of course, all that is sort of gradually revealed as you play, because the whole game is fully narrated. So as you play the game, there's voiceover sort of revealing some of the kind of hidden depth to the actions that you're taking. It's best sort of experienced directly, because it's almost hard to talk about. Like, the idea of a game where a man like talks to you the whole time as you play doesn't sound inherently that exciting, but we think we're like delivering on it in a way that well, people are responding really well to it. Other than that, we're really proud of our art style. Like, it's all kind of hand-painted 2D artwork. We wanted a game that had like the tight, responsive feel of classic games, and our focus on just like player skill-based combat is also like really fun too. It just makes the moment-to-moment gameplay feel much more pleasurable, I think, than like a lot of action RPGs where you're just kind of slugging it out with things and, you know, throwing away your axe for a double-bladed axe or whatever. In our game, it's much more about getting a feel for all the different weapons in the game and mastering, you know, a lot of different little timing-based mechanics and stuff like that.
You touched on the art style, and it is very unique. It's a very pretty game. It's almost sort of with the way you play it in like an isometric view.
Yeah.
It's got kind of that retro touch to it, but it's also something very different as well. Yeah. Is that how the game always looked, or is that something that it's slowly evolved into?
So it's definitely not how the game always looked. It looked extremely crude only a little more than a year ago, and we did like attempt a couple of different art styles, mainly by virtue of a couple of artists who kind of briefly worked on it, and then we found a young lady named Gen Z, who's our artist, and she this is all her work. She just nailed it, basically. I mean, what she came into was a game with an isometric perspective and this style of gameplay, but there was no foundation for the art, and we just had the tone that we wanted, and she took it and really ran with it, and yeah, we think her work is awesome.
Yeah,
so
it's very good.
We wanted, I hesitate to even use the term, but it's technically a post-apocalyptic setting, but we didn't want it to feel that way at all. We wanted it to be the type of place like you want it to be in, not just like a depressing, like desolate location. We wanted it to be a really beautiful setting, and in the backstory of the game, the narrator is talking about this like grand, amazing city, and you experience this world that is really beautiful even in its destruction. So you kind of start to wonder, man, this place must have been really something, you know, before this happened. So that's kind of the feeling we want to get.
You touched on the narrator. It's not just a case of him sort of telling you the story as it's going. He also narrates on a lot of what the character is doing at the time.
Yeah, precisely.
How do you keep that fresh and not get repetitive sort of as the game goes on?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. Our narrator, so we have sort of a few golden rules around how we use our narrator, because he is pervasive throughout the experience, and we, I mean, the main way in which he doesn't get repetitive is that he literally never repeats his stuff. It's all, unless you like repeat content. Like if you play the game a second time, you will hear stuff repeated, obviously, but as you play through, you will never hear the same line twice. And what he always gives you information that you could have never discerned on your own. He's always giving you sort of backstory or subtext in ways that you couldn't have, you know, as you're exploring this world, it's things you couldn't have possibly known. So he's giving you added depth, basically, in all your interactions. And we never use him for like, he's never relegated to tutorial or anything like that. He's always deepening your interactions. That's our basic kind of approach with him. And then also just the idea of the narration like the framework of this narrative allows us to do some interesting stuff, because and I don't want to sort of give anything away, but you start to wonder why the story is being told. Let's say we can like leave it at that, and we want the player to develop like a pretty rich relationship with him, because he's there through the whole experience. So like by the end, we want people to have like pretty complex feelings about him, like someone you've known for a long time, right? It's like you've been through different times together and stuff. Yeah. So hopefully that'll be how we keep it fresh.
Kid sees the way to the Bastion out the window. It's a bit of a drop.
How does the XP system work within the game? I mean, it's a big part of any RPG.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing anything different with it?
Yeah, we are. Like since our combat is like more, as mentioned, it's a more like action-oriented game. It's not about like just overpowering enemies. As you level up and gain experience, which you gain primarily through combat, you gain access to more and more options, which you can use to customize your character, essentially. Actually, right here, we were just seeing a structure called the distillery, where you could drink these certain distilled beverages that enhance your abilities in certain ways. And as you level up, you can like your drink limit increases. You can take more of them, so you can specialize your character more and more. You also can like upgrade your weapons down different paths and stuff. Basically, really invest in certain weapons and certain playstyles. So we want to give you access to more and more gameplay options, and then from those you start to find something that like really suits you, like that you feel really good about. Whether you're the guy who like hits really hard, waits for just the right moment to really nail the guy, or you're the guy who's just like blinding fast and dashing all over the place, you can kind of specialize in any of those directions.
As you're playing the game, it literally builds around you. Does that give you the option to have multiple routes? Are there multiple ways through the story? Anything like that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Like we use, so yeah, the world does kind of come up around you. That's like linked to the story and everything. We use that from a design standpoint. What it allows us to do is like help guide the player without the player having to look at a map the whole time. It's like you get to keep your eyes, you get to focus on the action. The game, like we didn't set out to make, it's a very sort of crafted experience. It's not, there are no like randomized levels or anything, and we tried like bigger like sprawling levels, and they didn't really work. Like the stuff that worked best for us was the stuff that was like tighter. So there definitely there are levels where you can take different paths and everything, but generally it doesn't have the feel or characteristic of like an open world or anything like that. And then we have like a meta, like a larger structure where we always, as you sort of push farther into the game and unlock new places that you could go, we always give you choices around where you could go next, so it never feels like you're just constrained down a particular path. But yeah, that's sort of influenced by games like Mario Galaxy and stuff like that, which we think have like a really nice balance of having crafted levels, but still the sense of freedom in terms of where you could go next.
How did Supergiant Games get started? Just a little brief rundown.
Yeah.
Sort of how you got going.
We started in September 2009. Myself and the two co-founders of the studio all came from Electronic Arts in Los Angeles. We all left our jobs at around the same time in August, and we were working on the Command & Conquer series before that. So yeah, we're guys who left our jobs to go make games our own way. We're working out of a house in sleepy San Jose, California.
Proper indie.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, these guys, I mean, the co-founders in particular made some pretty big kind of personal sacrifice. They just gave it all up to go do this thing because we wanted, we really wanted to try doing things our way. And it's been incredibly rewarding so far.
I mean, from a gamer's point of view, it certainly does seem like a lot more indies have access to actually get their games straight to the gamers now with like digital distribution, whether it be Steam or the Apple Store or PSN, things like that. Is that really the case from your side of the fence, or?
I mean, it absolutely is. We could not be doing this if not for the existence of like Xbox Live Arcade and PSN and Steam and those kinds of services. It's like the only reason we exist is there's a way to bypass the retail channels now. We do have a publisher now, as of yesterday, that Warner Brothers is allowing us to release this game. Like every Xbox Live Arcade game has a publisher, because those are the rules. But like we're still developing the game, our own way. We're independent, have our own IP and all this stuff, and that's really. It's great that the technology is at a place where people can do this, because we're a group of 6 people. Up until it used to only take 6 people, like in the 80s or maybe early 90s and stuff, to make a game, and it's interesting that it's come full circle where that's possible again.
Well, congratulations on the deal with Warner Brothers.
Thanks.
When's Bastion hopefully maybe going to be out?
It will be out in the summer on XBLA, and then later this year on PC.
Cool. So. Greg from Supergiant Games, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The dead. The dead ain't gotta worry about this mess. Our world, she's done. But there's a way to put her back together. So better get ready, cause Mother only knows what's out there floating on them rocks. Beasts what don't know up from down. Fragments of the old world. You bring them back. And together, we're gonna build something grand. And remember, you ain't in this alone. That's a promise.